Welcome to episode 106 of the Sleep Whisperer podcast, weaving shamanic energy medicine, intuitive coaching, alchemy, sound healing, and holistic approaches to transformation, coaching, and mentorship. For the past 20 years, Ashera Serfaty has been serving clients on their journeys of awakening to their highest potentials. She facilitates workshops, trainings, and apprenticeships for women to connect with their authentic empowerment and intuition. Ashera leads international retreats as well as an annual pilgrimage to Peru for the last 14 years. She has been blessed to train and study with a variety of renowned teachers, shamans, and healers, and in numerous transformational healing and coaching modalities over the last 20 years. She has lived in the Andes mountains of Peru and was initiated into and apprenticed directly into the Andean Indigenous earth and wisdom keeper lineage as a full mesa carrier. Ashera has a thriving practice serving women on their awakening journey. We are always dreaming. In Indigenous culture, we are always in a state of dream. Shamanism is a fascinating area, and Ashera walks us beautifully through her journey in the Andes with the Indigenous tribe, shamanism, and dreams to help us understand that magical synergy with nature as a potent power. Living high up in the mountains is always a teacher, and she takes us through how we might connect with nature to help our healing journey. How can we become like the wind? How might we become like the mountains? We are nature itself, and this episode walks us through this power. How can we tune into the more subtle aspects of consciousness while sleeping, dreaming, and everything through the tutelage of nature? Accepting that we can always learn more, always surrender better, and embrace greater change is a power within us that will always guide us through the deepest healing journey. Many of the episodes on the podcast bring you this passion, faith, and magic of people who have walked the talk. Scroll through the show and find your favorite ones. Hey everyone, I'm Deepa, light functional medicine practitioner, author, and yogini, and you're listening to the Sleep Whisperer podcast, the only sleep podcast with conversations and meditations. I'm on a mission to share profoundly insightful sleep conversations with global visionaries that merge together functional medicine and ancient wisdom. Breathe in bliss through weekly guided meditations and let yourself enter the land of dreams. Together, let's unravel the pieces, get to the roots, and understand the right tools to transform your sleep completely. Through this podcast, I want you to dream the best version of yourself. It's time to regain hope and begin your sleep journey. Ashera, I've got goosebumps just thinking about our conversation ahead, and I'm sure since we are speaking a lot about the psychic aspects and of poor sleep and dreaming, that there's some level of psychic guidance that brought the two of us together as well. I definitely feel there's some soul resonating there. And today we are speaking about so many things, and even though we've done several episodes on dreaming, I think this one is very unique because first of all, you've got the shamanic roots, and that's an area that's always held fascination for me. And we are speaking about psychic roots which prevent proper sleep. We're also speaking a little bit about indigenous aspects of dreaming and different types of dreams. And of course, this is not about exactly what dreams mean, but how can we use those messages to support our life, maybe use them as intuitive guidance in choosing a path ahead. And I know you've got experience with this. So just share a little bit about the magical journey of Ashera herself, because you remind me of this shamanic priestess, this potently powerful woman. So I'm always excited to have my female-centric conversations.
Beautiful. I'm so glad to be here and sharing with you. And it feels like it was magic that we're brought together to share this topic and go deeper into sleep, into dreaming. And for me, my roots, I have worked with energy medicine and shamanic healing now for 20 plus years, but really it went back to when I was a child, where I was a dreamer, and I've always been a dreamer. I've always been a dreamer, meaning I've always had really powerful, potent, and fantastical dreams, and dreams of guidance. And my dreams, in fact, brought me to the path that I was on to not just study, but apprentice in shamanic healing, and eventually live in the Andes of Peru in the mountains for 7 years among the indigenous people. And that was something that I dreamt about, and I didn't know where until when I got there that it actually was manifesting. So that's very interesting. And so for me, it's been a long journey. And I also had trouble in my life sleeping at different times and as a child, or my dreams would disturb me. But anyway, I'll go into that a little later. But I work with clients to help them on various things, not just sleeping or dreaming, and it assists them invariably to have better sleep and to improve their connection with their dream life, which is not just when we're sleeping. In the indigenous culture, we're always dreaming. This is a dream. We dream this in through our conscious basically our subconscious and superconscious dream this in. So it's an area that I am very interested in and really enjoy helping people with.
Ashera, I think we should just probably get started talking a little bit about your experience living amongst this indigenous people of, the Andes sounds magical in itself. So maybe I'd love to know, what did you learn from living there for 7 years? Because 7 years is not a short time. And obviously there was some deep learnings from the indigenous people themselves. So what did you learn, of course, generally in terms of living a healthy and sacred life, but also specifically in terms of sleeping and dreaming? And I would love to know that before we actually explore different aspects of dreams.
Living amongst the indigenous people and as well in the high Andes, it's very high elevation, 11,000 feet, sometimes more. And so you are amongst the high peaks of the Andes, and it is like a dream. And so the indigenous people of Peru are the Q'ero, are high up in the mountains. They live high up. And I, of course, didn't live at 15,000 feet with them. I'd visit with them. But I lived in the valley, which is 10,000, 11,000 feet. And I learned to connect deeply with nature there in a way that is becoming like the wind, becoming like the sun, becoming the mountain. And these are the teachings of the indigenous people of the Andes, that we are nature itself. And so we're constantly communicating and reading the signs with nature. And when I was there, one really amazing thing is my dreams. I already was a dreamer, but my dreams went off the hook, basically. They were so potent and so psychic. And a lot of people that go there notice that. that their dreams are pretty strong. So the indigenous people there have this concept of dreaming. They're dreaming the world into being. That's what they say. So where we put our energy, where they put their energy is what happens. And so they'll communicate with nature, and they'll know through their dreaming while they're sleeping, but also dreaming awake. They'll get the signs of a storm coming or what to plant. So a lot of these psychic dreams are basically, we call psychic, but for them, it's just a constant communication with nature itself. So for me, I began to learn, okay, what mountain do I need to go up to? And it would come into my dream. Or what aspects. So I would learn how to tune in to more of the subtler aspects of consciousness with regards to sleeping, with dreaming, and other things, and their presence through their tutelage, and also the tutelage of the earth itself, because it's so much a part of life.
And I think, Ashera, that sounds so sacred, and this sounds a lot like some of the beliefs that resonate deep within the upper Himalayas. So when I lived in the Himalayas, there was a similar view that, you are deeply connected with everything around you. Nothing matters to you. When I was there, I don't think I could live without a phone or any form of communication for a month, and it didn't matter at all. And you're so right that I think at that point, the dreams were more vivid. They were far more intuitive. So I think there's something definitely sacred up in the mountains. And communicating with nature, that itself sounds so magical. And I'm wondering what actually brought you back after living in such a magical space, because I don't think I would have come back.
Well, life takes us to places, and I had dreamt about that place, even though I didn't know where it was as a child. And I wasn't looking for it, but it came into my life. And the Karo came into my life in my dream. And when I was training in energy medicine, shamanic healing, the dreams brought me there. And as well as it just was a feeling. So what brought me there, and also what brought me back. So what brought me back was, I had learned so much from the mountains and from the earth, and I had learned so much from the indigenous people. And though I was doing healing sessions at a distance on the phone and just at a distance with people around the world, and there, what happened was, it is a third world country, as you know, but also it was a deep call that I had to come back to North America. And I think part of it was to share this medicine over here, because even though I was sharing it, there was something about being in a way in the US, which is the belly of the beast in some way, especially now with everything that's going on, and sharing this wisdom of the earth, which is we can access anywhere. You don't have to be at the top of a mountain. And the truth is, we have to learn how to weave it into our daily life. But it's a wisdom that needs to be shared, to be brought forward. It's part of the prophecy, which is called the eagle and condor prophecy. And it's called the prophecy. It's because when the eagle and the condor fly together, it's because the puma of the north and the puma of the south wake up. And so there's a sense of awakening in the North America, the Western world, basically, that has to happen for the whole world to awaken. And so what we're doing now is awakening within the dream. So it's not just dreaming while we're sleeping. Again, it's awakening within this dream. I know in different indigenous traditions, they have names for it. This dream is called Maya, the illusion, or whatever we want to call it. So I think there was something in me that even though I loved it there, I could feel that it had expired. But I still go back every 6 months, and I bring people there and then bring the medicine back, just kind of calling myself a rainbow bridge, just going across the rainbow bridge.
Love it.
Just
And I
listen.
think Ashera, there's a lot of even the gurus up in the Himalayas always talk about this. They don't want the student to be there forever. They eventually tell you go back because spread the message. There's a reason why something brought you here, and then there's your journey where you need to go and spread that. So I totally resonate with that. And what does shamanism actually tell us, or the wisdom of the earth tell us about sleep? What is the sacred aspect of sleep?
Well, Deepa, the sacred aspect of sleep, according to, the indigenous people, and I say that because in the Andes, they're more mystics. It's mystical shamanism, as opposed to when we think of shamanism, we think of more of the jungle, or in Siberia, it's slightly different. In the Andes, which is where I've spent most of my studies and tutelage or apprenticeship with regards to the indigenous wisdom, is more of a mystical practice, or a mystical shamanism. And what it shares about sleeping and dreaming is basically everything is energy. And so when we're not sleeping well, there's something in our energy, in our field. And this is deeply because of something around us, something within us. It could be ancestral. It could be a trauma that we're carrying. It could be any number of things, energy that we've taken on from others, stress. So physical and emotional, as well as psychic level, or even lifetimes, a trauma that's activated in our life that is there and interrupts or disrupts the calmness of the sleep. And of course, of the dreams too, can create nightmares. When someone has nightmares in the indigenous culture, they go to a shaman, they go to a healer, they go to someone, because there is something happening on a deeper level. And until you get to that root, it will continue. And so there are ways to look into that realm that, we are, as shamanic practitioners or mystical practitioners, energy practitioners, we can see between the worlds, into the realms. And there's a lot going on beyond this 3-dimension of just going to sleep and waking up.
Yes.
And within that realm, the disruption can create poor sleep. It can create nightmares. It can create all sorts of things that affect someone's health on all levels. So there is always, when there's poor sleep, you have to look at the deep roots of the emotional and psychic and family, ancestors. You look at it in context of a whole thing, not just one area of the physical life and health.
I love that. And I'm wondering whether we can go into that a little deeper and break down some of that, because trauma I relate to completely. And I know how there's so much depth, so many layers to healing from trauma. And it's just never consciously speaking about it and feeling that it can be resolved. There can be ripples of effect on a psychic level. So I would love for you to break this down as much as possible, so we really tune into what is going on. And I love the fact that you brought attention to sleep is not just a physical aspect of going to sleep and waking up, and there's so much happening in that space. So if you could just break down, especially if you could go a little bit more into trauma, because I think as a world and as a culture, there's a lot of perpetuating trauma, and often it's ignored or not given adequate attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're totally correct and right on. It's an area that is so important, and it affects everybody's health and well-being. And so how trauma affects our sleep and dreaming is huge, and an ability to deeply relax or dream and really on the psychic level, there's so much going on underneath. And most people are very externally focused in the world, do their work, be at the computer, and they don't pay attention to what's really going on inside and the deeper levels. And that's where the answer is. And with regards to trauma, anything can be a trauma. It doesn't have to be this huge thing. It could be birth is a trauma, a child that goes through something and they feel something. It's not about the external circumstance. They can carry that deep within. There can be, overstimulation. There's so many traumatic interpretations that people have.
And I think also, Ashera, that trauma varies from you to me. So sometimes it's unfair to think that someone's trauma is any less than mine. It's totally different. To that person, that trauma can be deeply debilitating.
Yeah. How things affect us. It could be the same thing and affect two different people completely different. Some people register it, and that why? Because it's a sum of, again, coming back to the community and the bigger picture. It could be ancestral. If you believe in past life, it could be imprints of many sorts. And so there is, on the level of the psyche, so much going on with trauma, and it's stored in the unconscious. So when we go to sleep, it can disrupt the sleep if that trauma is resting underneath. It could not just create nightmares, but waking up, not falling back asleep, because the person may not want to go back in to that sensation, to that feeling. You're accessing, when you sleep, when you go into deeper states of REM and dream states, you go deeper, and you're going deeper into layers of your unconscious and subconscious and consciousness and memories. And those, if there's trauma in there, which I believe everybody has on some level, then you're accessing that and you're in that world. And so that can affect your sleeping and dreaming. And how do you, it's like there are levels of consciousness when you're sleeping are addressed. You're in that world. You're in another world. You may be journeying into this other world of your past or the trauma. And it registers in the body, if there is a trauma, as pain. And it can cause physical pain in your body, or it could just keep you awake. It could create a nightmare. And so a disability, I want to say that inability to deep sleep is definitely not just affected, but I think the root cause is emotional and psychic level, and especially trauma. So there's a lot of deep levels of trauma that have to be looked at when you're addressing sleep and releasing those from the psychic body and the physical body, the energetic body, and almost that deep place in the memory. How to enter that space and release that so it's not stored so deeply in there and someone can go deeper into sleep.
And is there any truth, Ashera, in maybe these layers which are there within us as we go into sleep, that trauma might be at the top, but then when you give priority and you work through those layers, then you access more beautiful spaces of the psychic self?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there are different levels and layers and kinds of dreams and kinds of sleep. And of course, the less trauma you have, the more you're going to be able to be in those magical dreams. But even if you do have trauma, you can access, all these different layers of dreams, whether they're the psychic, the magical realm, the dimensional, the prophetic, the connection with, your guides or allies or whatever it is accessible to everybody, with or without trauma, with or without challenges in sleep. But of course, if you're not sleeping, it's hard to go to those deeper levels of dreaming and harder to remember your dreams. And so that's an important part of it as well. if you have trauma, sometimes you don't want to remember your dreams. So you're kind of pushing yourself away from sleeping and dreaming. And so, like you said, those deeper layers, of course, when there's less trauma, you can go into these amazing magical dreams and the layers of consciousness that are available without having to fear of going there, because you've cleared that out of your unconscious.
And I would love for us to talk about different kinds of dreams before we actually come to your approach for helping people with sleeping and dreaming. And you mentioned the eagle, and it gave me goosebumps when you mentioned that, Ashera, because 2 nights ago, and I've had several dreams where I'm a bird and I'm flying, but 2 nights ago, I had this dream that I was this massive eagle and I was flying, and I told my husband about this, and then when you mentioned this, there was a shiver that just shot up my spine. So I'd love for you to, I know that we don't really bring attention to what a dream specifically means, but I would love for you to talk about different kinds of dreams and maybe bring a little insight into my dream, more as a way for people to understand how to make the connections of whatever nature symbols that come to them in their dreams.
Yes. So dreams are profound. They're teachers, and they are, our gateway to our soul, to our purpose, and to our guidance. And, your dream was an incredible dream. And the eagle, of course, I'm very connected to the eagle. I've dreamt of the eagle. I've seen many eagles and condors, and the eagle, of course, we all can access. When we think about the eagle, it's a sense of freedom. It's flying. And of course, it depends what an eagle is doing in your dream. Like if it's sitting on a branch or eating something or flying, that will give you more information. So it's not just the symbol, but it's also the feeling that you had when you were connecting to the eagle. And you're saying,
yeah, I think I felt I was the eagle, and I felt a sense of power and freedom. I remember a previous episode on dreaming where someone said that it matters what did the dream symbolize to you personally, and try to carry that symbolism with you as a way to use and nurture the quality of your life. So I've been just trying to bring attention to that.
Yeah. So that feeling, so you can, whatever comes up in your dream as a positive symbol that gives you, it's like a power. It's an animal that's giving you its power. We call this in shamanic practice, your power animal. It's one of your power animals. And basically, it's not the physicality of the animal, it's the feeling, and it's a frequency. Everything has a frequency. When we think about an eagle, it has a frequency. When we think about a bear, it has a frequency. When we think about a little hummingbird, there's a different feeling that we have. And that is the medicine for you that's coming in to take with you, to embody and carry forth. It's like a transmission. And so the more you just are sitting and closing your eyes and feeling that energy of being the eagle, it brings you that freedom. So when different symbols or animals come into the dream, they're allies or frequencies or energy. And instead of having to really unpack them mentally, what we can do is just sit with the feeling of it. The other night I had a dream about a bear because I was camping a couple of weeks ago, and I did see a bear, and it came right up to the picnic table. It was really powerful. And this last week, I've had a couple of dreams with a bear in it. And the bear was just feel its protective energy. And so for me, it was really embodying and feeling that in my life. And when we embody, we feel, we connect with the essence of the symbol, then it empowers us to to bring that into ourselves. It is us, because everything in our dream is us. So when we have different dreams, it's about the quality, the feeling. And I always tell people to just write them down or spend a few minutes in the morning to be with their dreams. And the more you write them down and the more you're with them, the more you remember them. But I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, each thing has its unique thing. So if we dream of water, it's how you felt in the water. Was the water moving? Was the water still? How, it's really bringing yourself back into the dream and how you sensed it. And also unpacking, is it prophetic or is it a medicine dream bringing that a healing to you? Is it working out something unconscious? So it's definitely one of my loves to look at people's dreams and look at my own dreams. And so thank you for sharing that amazing dream of the eagle, and no coincidence. So it seems like there could have been some prophetic energy too, because I work very strongly with the eagle, and my medicine is the eagle condor is, helping bridge these two medicines, which
Perhaps.
is the awakening.
I'm just thinking that what a sense of fortitude that I dreamt that 2 days before our conversation. I mean, that itself spells magic to me. And I have other thoughts as well on that, which we'll discuss later. But I would like you to speak a little bit more about why nature is revered and is so sacred among the indigenous culture, and what is that magic? I know nature is potent because there's so much depth of teaching in the mountains, the trees, the different animals. It's just sacredness everywhere. But what has brought that level of sacredness to shamanism?
So before we had these huge cities, everybody was living more simply on the earth. So if you think about 1,000 years ago, we did not have the computers and the phones and all the stimulation. We lived with the earth. We lived very connected to the earth. We had to know when there was going to be rain, when we had to plant the seeds, listening to the wind. And so all indigenous cultures, not just in Peru, everywhere in the whole world, was always connected to the cycles of life. And this wisdom is our wisdom of the earth. As humans, we need Mother Earth. We can't survive without the sun, without the water, without the air. We need the sun, the earth, the air, the fire, water is our life, and it's within us. And so in the indigenous cultures, it's just part of life. It's not even shamanic. It's just everybody's nature. But as time has gone forward, as we see, there is a disconnection from that. Some people may not even know what the phase in the moon or what's going on in the skies. They don't look outside. They don't connect with their physical surroundings. And so in the indigenous cultures, and especially in Peru, when you go to Peru, there's obviously the cities there as well. But when you go into the mountains, and I'm sure in any part of the world, in India, when you go further out, people are more connected to the earth. Yes. And the wisdom of the earth. And that is the original wisdom. That is the wisdom that brings us into connection with the purpose of us as humans to be here. So the importance of not just the visible world, but the invisible world has always been honored, because we're not just in a third dimension. There's a lot going on, and we see that when we're dreaming. And that's why they say we're always dreaming, we're always creating. So in the indigenous cultures, the earth is everything. And I think I would go to say that it is for all of us, and we've forgotten, and we have to remember, and everybody knows when they go in nature, they're like, oh my gosh, it was the beautiful ocean, or, it touches everybody's hearts because it is our connection. It is our source connections. It's where we're from. And so, yes.
And I think, Ashera, what you said was, even if we don't have a spiritual or psychic aspect to wanting to reconnect with nature in a way which is more mystical and full of gratitude, I think the benefits of just being in nature are just even improved creativity. We just bring out a deeper side of ourselves. But I would like you to now take us through, actually, how would you help someone to sleep better and to dream in a way that is fulfilling and helping them to nurture and nourish their lives? And what would be the way? You did mention right at the start about the psychic imbalance to poor sleep. So how might we actually begin to restore and reconnect with ourselves in a way where we improve this quality of sleeping and dreaming?
Yeah, so it's multi-layered. And so depending if a client comes for an energy or shamanic session or a coaching session or both, we have to address a multitude of things. First of all, as you probably, the obvious is when we go to the first layer, on the physical layer, are you on the computer till 11 at night or 12 at night? And you've probably heard this from other practitioners, sleep rituals, and, having a bath, relaxing the nervous system,
Yes.
Using essential oils. And, I won't go into those because I'm sure most people know about that, whether they do it or not, low lights on your computer, etc. But on the deeper layers, what I would say is, what's going on in your life? And so we would set up for a session. The way I work is it's somebody lays down, whether they're in front of me or in the other side of the world. And, we just chat a little bit about their deepest challenge, because whatever your deepest challenge is going to show up in your lack of sleep or your challenges in dreams or the quality of your dreams or the message of your dreams. And then I'll proceed to do some deeper work, which I can share more about.
Yes. And what happens if someone is not even in tune to really understand what are their challenges? Because one thing that I come across a lot, Ashera, is that there's a form of self-denial often, and people usually don't acknowledge the most challenging parts of their life. Most often they're trying to convince themselves that it's not a challenge and they're in a good space. So where do you begin with that?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, there's a couple of different things. First of all, somebody has to at least acknowledge there's something in order to come. Otherwise, they wouldn't call me. So there has to be but yes, there can be a level of deep denial. So it's like, yeah, well, I have this challenge, but I'm pretty good. Okay, but I want to sleep better. Okay, so that is fine. So what I would do is I get permission to access their energy body, their energy field. And so when I do that, I can track. It's a process called tracking, and I can track their energy field and where the stuck energy in their field is. I begin with that. And, some people call it in the chakra system or the chakra or the energy. And it's sort of, I will see where the challenge is energetically. So I'll begin to work with that and start to clear it and interface with it, as well as do some journeying and ask what is going on. And I might find there is a trauma when they were 3, or I might see, I start to see images and I receive information as I work with what it is that is there. And I will communicate that to the client. Generally, I do that now because I believe it's important that somebody has to know what is going on. I'm not there just to say, okay, here, I'll heal you, you go home. We are our own healers, and we have to acknowledge and bring it to the surface. So if somebody doesn't want to acknowledge it, then there still can be a healing and clearing, but coming back for a second session, I'd probably be like, well, they would begin to acknowledge it. It brings it to the light of day to say, oh yeah, I do remember I felt stress as a child. I do remember that. And, there's nothing that they have to analyze about it, but it's just simply allowing it. And so I clear some of that energy with off their field, that heavy energy. I might do some journeying. I may do some other theta clearing, going up to a higher state, any agreements or contracts or times I may be taken to the time where there was a trauma. And, so I move along dimensions of time. And in that time, there may be even a younger version of that person stuck in time. And it's really interfacing and saying, you can let go, you're safe now. So I'm basically doing journeying. So I'm working on the psychic, shamanic level, as well as just the energetic with sound. I have sound bowls and rattles. And then also through the emotional, I call it mental, physical, emotional, and psychological and spiritual levels, all levels. And so I kind of go between levels and things shift. It's really powerful. And people usually relax. And a lot of times at the end of the session, fall asleep.
And is there something that you could actually guide us with if we could not come and see you, or we are not able to have access to this kind of healing? Is there some tool that we can use to get started, which helps us to restore a deeper sense of safety and feeling that we're safe enough to fall asleep, safe enough to go into the land of dreams?
Yeah. So if people don't want to have sessions, we all have the ability to heal ourselves. And you've just brought up a great point. We all have access to this within us. We have a self-healing ability. We have ability to self-heal. We have the ability to align with our source connection, with our own relaxation. And so what I would say is it is about safety. And since we were talking about Mother Earth, is one of the things is there's going into a meditation where you just imagine Mother Earth holding you, that you're laying on the ground. Or I'll guide people, and I do have some journeys where you can do them, but on your own, just imagine being in your most beautiful place in nature, a place where you feel connected to and safe, and that you can lay there and listen to the wind and feel the earth and allow yourself to receive that sense of support and groundedness. And as you do that, your nervous system begins to relax. It's a frequency. We nowadays we call it grounding,
Yes.
Just going around the earth, there's, therethere's biomats or all sorts of things and frequencies or yoga nidra.
Do you personally feel that we need those kind of grounding mats, or is just tuning back to actually being connected to the earth?
Well, here's the thing. It's a nice thing to say for us to say, just get grounded to the earth and you'll fall asleep. But a lot of people just don't know how to do that. And so that's why I like to guide people in my coaching and how to empower themselves to take care of themselves, not just for dreaming or sleeping, in all areas, so that they can kind of have that self-healing and knowledge. So, yeah, I think that these tools like a biomat or, listening to a recording or other external things that we bring in, I think they can be helpful for somebody who lives in a city or somebody who's completely stressed out to kind of jumpstart and get their nervous system to understand. Because we have to feel it. We have to know what it feels like. And, now I can lay there and feel that, close my eyes, and because I've done it so many times. But if you're not going outside, like in the dead of winter in the middle of the city with, and there's a lot of stress and somebody has trauma, something like a biomat or a recording or, all these sorts of things to help them and assist them can be helpful. I don't believe in, relying on the external, because we can do it within, but we all need assistance. We all need a support, whether it's, a friend or a coach or a healing practitioner or
Yes.
a mat or something. So it's just, learning. It's learning how to, once a nervous system knows how to relax and knows to pay attention to the dreams, then, you're on the track. But you have to get from, if you're not on a good track, you have to be able to get to the track. So, yeah.
And I know you shared a lot, but I do want to ask you one more question, which is how can dreaming actually help us in our waking life? And you did mention this when you spoke about the Indigenous tribe and how dreaming is all the time. It's not just when you're sleeping, you're perpetually a dreamer. So I would love to know, what did you mean by that and how can it actually help us?
So we're always dreaming because we all have a subconscious, an unconscious, and we have also a superconscious. And basically, whatever is in our subconscious is what we're creating. So if you say, I'm happy, everything's good, but in your subconscious, I'm afraid and I'm fearful, then the message that's getting created is life, I'm fearful, I'm not safe. Even if you try to make an affirmation, do a mantra,
yes.
It's still in your subconscious. And so dreaming is being aware of what's in your subconscious and putting what you want to be in your subconscious, which is basically your superconscious, is when you are dreaming. So what that means in Indigenous terms is that you are connecting with what you really, it's like you feel and you see the world in a better place. You feel and you see what it would be like to live the life that you love. So when you start to feel it, not just as an idea, then what you're doing, and you're choosing that, you're saying that's what you're in your superconscious. When we're in those states of bliss, we're in the superconscious, and you're putting that into your subconscious. And when we do that, we're always dreaming. So we can either dream the old trauma, the old beliefs, or we can put in that subconscious what we're dreaming. And there's a way to do that. And in Indigenous cultures, they, in the Karo tradition, they have coca leaves and they bless them and they chew them. And as they chew them, they are connecting with nature. And it's like a way of dreaming. It's a way of saying, we're connecting to nature and we're being in this state of mind, and we're doing it all the time. I'm in this state of mind where I'm feeling and I'm seeing the beauty of all that is, the gratitude of all that is. And when we're in that space, it's like when we're in that space, that's what shows up. That's what we're creating. So we all know that from quantum physics. We're waking up here and knowing that we're waking up and making a choice. So it's like, am I dreaming? And then we realize, well, in a way, I am dreaming. What do I want to dream? So it gives us the opportunity to redirect that subconscious to what we want. And so in the Indigenous culture, they're always dreaming they're not focusing on the negative. They're not worrying. They're in the moment. And that's the skill of dreaming.
I think that's beautiful, Ashera, and I know I want to respect your time, but I do want to get a peek into some food customs of the Indigenous culture. And what did you actually eat? Is there something that taught you about how to eat or what to eat when you were there? Because I think there is a deep science in most ancient traditions about eating intuitively. So I'd like to just get a little peek into that before I let you go.
Well, you know, everybody has their custom in eating. And in Peru, there's simple people in the mountains, and they live off the land. And potatoes are the big thing. And I was just talking to some friends yesterday about the potatoes, that there's over 500 varieties of potatoes. And but then potatoes are so nutritious. The sun is so powerful, the light, the soil. There is so much power that the potatoes are so enlivening. And so I ate some potatoes, but basically I ate all sorts of things. And I think it's not necessarily what we eat or what they ate, but it's the relationship. Just like dreaming, just like to our lives, to the thing. It's not just the symbol of it, like the eagle. It's our relationship to it. So the relationship to, I pulled this potato or corn or whatever it is from the earth, and gratitude and the feeling of richness and abundance while cooking food and while eating food, no matter how simple, is enlivening. And, when I heard your question, I said, how does that relate? It's like, well, it really does relate because, it's the way we bring our attention to something that shifts our bodies, our mind, our sleep. So when you eat, and it's about eating and sharing your meal, sharing it in gratitude, and then you're happier, you're more connected, and then you dream more, you sleep better, and you feel like you're here in this world and have a purpose. So, yeah.
And I think that's why I asked you, Ashera, because for me, there was a world of difference when I lived in the ashram in the Himalayas. There was, I don't think there was any food was any food was considered toxic, or it was more that there was a deep spiritual aspect to cooking and eating, and the attention that was brought to sitting on the floor and eating your meals with love, whatever it was. And I think that's why I asked you that, to see if there was some comparison to being in the Himalayas and other mountains, very similar in terms of these practices, because eventually food is something that should be considered a spiritual aspect. It's not about breaking it down into macronutrients or and that's why I asked you that totally off-topic questions. And do you have any final words to share about sleeping and dreaming before we come to the end of the show?
Thanks, Deepa. It's been really fun to be here and share and see what comes through, and hopefully, others can really slow down. I think the message is coming, and become more conscious, not just of what you put in your body, but how you approach. Do you eat in front of your computer? Do you, or your sleep, being more conscious that I'm going to sleep to have a beautiful experience, and make an intention. This is really what we're, the essence, what we're coming down to, is bringing your intention to your sleep, saying, I'd love to have a beautiful, restful sleep. And even what you would like to do if you woke up, put your hand out before you go to sleep. If I awoke in my dream, I would love to the dolphins, fly with the eagles, and even if it doesn't happen, you're bringing your in self into that state of dreaming your world into being, dreaming your sleep into being, and shifting from stress and trauma and challenge into what you really love. And when we do that over and over, then we can change our lives And I definitely believe that, and also have had that experience of that in my life. But that will be for another another show. I can share with you my story. So that's what I
think
want.
we should have you back on the show and get your story, Ashera. And I'm sure it'll take several more magical turns on that episode. But we have a mantra on the show, and I'd like you to complete it for us. So if sleep is the new medicine, then what would Ashera complete that?
Then we must pay attention to our breath, our intentions, and our dreams.
Thank you, Ashera. Where can people reach out to you or find you if they'd like to know a little bit more?
They can find me on my website. It's luminosityhealingarts.com. That's luminosityhealingarts.com. Yes. Thank you so much
for your time. I truly am grateful for this, and I hope this soul connection continues to last and takes us into greater spaces. But I'm so glad that I had you here today.
Likewise. See you in the dream world with the eagles. Thank you so much for this beautiful time. It was a gift. Thanks.
Hi everyone, I hope you enjoyed the show today. Just a reminder that this podcast is for information purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional care by a doctor or otherwise qualified health professional. This information is provided on the understanding that it does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. If you are looking for personal help on your health journey, do seek out a qualified professional. Please do make your own healthcare decisions based upon your research and in partnership with a qualified healthcare professional. It is in no way intended as medical advice or a treatment or cure for any condition. Be sure to always directly work with a qualified practitioner before making any changes to your diet or lifestyle that may feel out of your realm of comfort or understanding. If you are looking for an allied functional medicine practitioner, do seek out more information on www.phytothrive.com. It is important that you have someone who is qualified and understands your health personally in order to provide adequate care, especially when it comes to chronic health conditions. Be sure to subscribe to the Sleep Whisperer podcast on your favorite podcast app to get each episode as soon as it launches.